Okay, here we are. Welcome, everyone. So nice to see a full house for today's webinar. We are all really excited to be here because I think we have an interesting topic and a wonderful speaker as well. So it's my joy to see you and to welcome you here, Yukta. We've been having a side conversation about doing something like this for a couple of months, and it's finally happening. And I think it's a really good topic because as doulas and as birth workers, we work so closely around womb energies. And we all know and have experienced there's a lot more to this than just the mechanics of, menstruation and birth. And so I think your um, tremendous learnings in various fields is a wealth of knowledge that we have in our community. So we want to try and tap into that and learn something more and deepen our knowledge from you. Um, I'm going to ask Sonia to do a quick introduction. I don't think people need an introduction of Yukta Mukhi, but still, because she's a lot more than how we typically know Yukta Mukhi as Miss World and celebrity and actress. There's a lot more to her. So, Sonia, do you want to just do a quick intro and then we'll begin the session?
Sorry, Neha, I cannot do a quick intro because she is doing a lot of things. She's a trained Waldorf educationist and specialist in early childhood. She's an environmentalist. She is a Reiki master, a moon mother, trained to give womb blessings, womb healings, and mentoring from professional women to live in rhythm with their menstrual cycles. And what I think I missed something. Yeah, she
Ayurveda. She
Ayurveda.
studied
Yeah.
Ayurveda deeply. She's a
Right,
Ayurveda
she's
practitioner.
practicing Ayurveda as well. So it's a long, yeah, and she's also certified as a professional prenatal and perinatal birth psychologist trained by APA, founding member of Prenatal Alliance, and she's champion for cause of transformation of the complete education system based on the scientific benefits of Sanskrit and Vedic Gurukulam pedagogy of imparting knowledge of the sacred scriptures. And she's an Ayurveda diploma holder and studied Ayurveda for women's and children's health. And wow, she's like a golden period educated by Omnio Future.
Yeah.
So this
I
is
think
in
what's
short,
most amazing is that in spite of that, she is
a
always
mother.
learning and she's so humble. And that's
Yeah,
amazing, Yukta. So we can go on talking about you,
right.
and we don't want to spend too much time there because we want to pass the limelight over to you. So tell me, do you want to first say something or should we first begin with the meditation?
I just want to thank two or three people before we begin the session. Firstly, my Sri Guru, whose grace has always led me to the right direction in life. And that's what the Guru's light does. I also want to acknowledge Divya's great mentoring because of who I was able to even pass the APA course because there was so much reading, it was unbearable. And she kept prodding me on, and there was an extension. So I really want to give her my heartfelt respect for not only just being a mentor, but the wonderful space she holds when she's training us as doulas as well. And I don't think it feels like we're students. I feel that today we're all part of a circle of sisterhood, and that's what I really want to honor and appreciate.
Thank you.
And the first person who introduced me, the first two people who brought me to connect back with my womb, one is the Ayurveda Acharya, Sumit Kesarkar, through whom I learned a lot of the Ayurvedic practices. And my guru sister, whose name is Rakhi Trust, who gave me my first womb blessing and womb healing and really opened up a whole new world for me. So, that's just a vote of gratitude to them. And then we'll get on to the session as well. So, what I'm requesting Neha to do for everyone, if actually everyone can check if their phones are on silent and they won't have disturbance for the next 15 to 20 minutes at least, because that we're going to set like the tone of the session. So we're first grounding, we're first sort of just coming into this space and being fully present with each other. And we'll begin with a short 5-minute meditation. It's a guided meditation. So this is our first way of connecting with our wombs, and this is especially for those women who feel very disconnected with their wombs. So thank you for doing the screen sharing, Neha. Please go ahead. As you have your eyes closed, please bring your awareness into your body. Feel, know, sense that you are bathed in a soft moonlight. Take a deep breath and see or know that you stand on the roots of an enormous tree that gently glows with a soft white energy. Two large branches reach up high into the night sky, and they are full of leaves and stars and galaxies. The large roots weave a complex pattern around the tree and flow out into space. You know that you stand on a sacred symbol woven from the beautiful feminine energy of the universe. On the roots of this large tree sit a multitude of women dressed in white. Each woman's womb center glows with a soft white light, and each woman's womb center resonates with the other woman through the roots of the tree. As you look into the distance, you realize that you are not seeing stars, but billions of women with their radiant womb centers. In your heart and womb, you know that you are surrounded by the circle of sisters. Every woman is connected to each other and to the sacred feminine energies of the universal womb tree. We are one pattern. Look down and see that you are wearing white robes. See or feel that your lower belly glows with a beautiful soft white light. Feel your heart open. You sit on the root that lies beneath you. Energy flows up from that root into your womb center and fills it. Your womb center responds to the energy, expanding outwards in all directions and becoming one with the sacred feminine pattern of all women. Breathe in and let go. You are home. Breathe in and let go. You belong. Breathe in and let go. You are who you are meant to be. Now become aware of a full moon above you in the branches of the universal womb tree. Her light flows over you and through you. You are glowing with her light. As you are bathed in the moonlight, feel it shine from your womb center, from your heart center, and from your whole being into the universal circle of sisters. Know that on the roots and under the tree, we are daughters of the divine feminine, and we are all sisters. Bringing your physical hands together into a prayer position, say in your heart silently, may all women feel this beautiful connection to each other. May all women know and respect that they are sisters. May all women feel this beautiful connection to the divine feminine. And may all women know that they are her expression in the world. May all women experience their sacredness, their beauty, and their strength, their inner peace, and a wealth of love. May all women now and in the future awaken and walk with this love of the sacred feminine in their hearts, in their wombs, in the everyday world. Take a moment to feel deep gratitude and love for the divine feminine. You may take your palms and place them over your lower belly. Take a deep breath. Grow your womb tree roots deep into the earth. When you feel ready, you may open your eyes. Thank you all again for joining in and holding your presence in this sacred space. So I'd like to begin with the introduction where, as we are still under the universal womb tree, maybe we can just visualize a flower that we're either holding or has fallen into our lap. And imagine that we have now become the fragrance of this flower. And that's what women do best. We offer ourselves to the world. We want to give, and we want to nurture, and we want to nourish. And then there are times when we also have to be able to be open to receiving. In today's very fast-paced society and with such levels of stress, and there's so much of information overload happening all the time, that I think we have not developed that level of ability, which maybe our previous generations could do it much more easily, is the ability to be able to receive, to ask for help, to feel that connection with our sisterhood. And what the whole journey of really being connected with your womb is allowing yourself to understand that there are phases we go through. So just like flowers and fruits and everything in nature has its own seasons and there's a whole rhythm, so too women have their own menstrual rhythm. And this applies also for women who are not bleeding or who have irregular cycles, or women who've had some kind of a surgery and they don't have a physical womb. But energetically, we are still all resonating with those cosmic energies. So it's very important to understand how do we move from one rhythm to the other and what really happens. So let me start by introducing that in India, we may look at the seasons through 6 lenses, but typically in the West and typically over the world, there are 4 seasons that they look at. And that's how we are going to divide our menstrual cycle. When we say that we are menstruating, or when we say I've started bleeding, then that truly is a time of complete stillness. That's a time where we're releasing. That's a time when we've come to be fully inwardly focused. And so that, in a sense, corresponds to the winter energies where everything is very dark outside. We've gone into a quieter space. We're not doing those outdoor activities or those external spaces, going to external places like we would do in summer. So starting with the first day of our menstrual cycle, we're going through this winter-like energy where we want to be inward, we want to be cared for, we want to be nourished. But at the same time, we don't have that level of physical energy, or we don't have even that emotional space to be a mother or to take care of others' needs. It's the time where our needs have to be met. And then we move into the spring. So post menstruation, a lot of women may, if a lot of us have journaled or reflected in the last 2 weeks, which we were supposed to do, is the fact where you say, okay, after menstrual cycle is over, I have a little more energy available. I'm able to extend myself, have some fresher ideas. Maybe I can look at extending myself in a much more dynamic way, just like spring. So after winter, we see, certain sprout of grass or a blade of grass really piercing through the earth and through the womb of Mother Earth is almost like a new beginning. And then we move into the summer where we say we're ovulating, we're mid-cycle. I feel I have it in me to go an extra mile, be helpful, be supportive, maybe take on an extra creative project, maybe bake something which I didn't do for my family. Maybe I want to garden, maybe I want to knit. And so these are the energies that are associated with the mother archetype. So we first went into winter. We started with winter. where we are in a crone phase, or we call it, like a wise woman, an elderly woman, like our grandmothers were. And then we move into the spring, which is a young maiden phase. So young girl, or when we feel great about everything that's going on in our lives and work, we feel super energetic. And then we've come to this mothering and nurturing, which is like summer, where we're able to, as I said, take extra care and maybe do that little extra, which otherwise we were not able to do. And then we again spiral down into a premenstrual phase. This is where a lot of women are struggling. This is where a lot of young girls are um, really going through a lot. I mean, suffering would probably be the right word with what the Western medicine or what the modern narrative tells us, that, it's okay to get premenstrual cramps. It's okay to have mood swings. It's okay for you to be in a blah mood or whatever it is. But that's not true. And if we were to just look at these energies from the standpoint of how they weave into each other, we'll be able to see how we can actually manage it in a way where we are not suppressing these energies. So when each energy gets its own space to express, to be creative, to, be also healed in that sense, that is when we're able to integrate them well. And we won't have those symptoms which are typically identified with premenstrual syndrome. So there is nothing like premenstrual syndrome. Basically, it's when we've not given ourselves that space to slow down a little bit. It's almost like pre-winter, like autumn season. So it's almost like we're preparing how we go in the evening or in the nighttime. We go, you start getting ready for bed. You start winding down a child. As mothers, we all know there's a rhythm. We want to shut the lights out. We want to sing a song, or we want to start massaging their feet or something, whatever it is. So when our bodies and our minds need that slowing down, and we don't allow ourselves that, or we don't give ourselves permission, and we feel we constantly have to perform and we constantly have to keep doing, is when those energies don't get their space and release. So that builds up stress and tension in the body. Of course, there's a lot of the fast-paced lifestyle, which is food and technology, which is not helping our situation. Of course, we haven't done daily activities or practices of meditation or self-nurturing and self-care to the extent that we would like to do or we need to do. And that's when these energies start. Then when they don't get a space, then it's almost like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum. Then that energy will, affect other areas of life. Then it's going to spill over into different departments, and then we're going to be all over the place. And then women say, oh, we're having a hormonal issue, or I'm having premenstrual cramps, and I have so much pain, I have to take a tablet, I need to. But if we just allowed ourselves to slow down, and if we just allowed ourselves to reconnect with what does my body need and what am I feeling right now, just to accept and acknowledge what am I feeling right now. It doesn't have to be whether it's right or wrong, and there is no judgment around it. But the more that we give it that room to breathe, the less that we'll have these issues. And in fact, we'll recognize that there are gifts hidden in this time. We can be much more creative during the premenstrual week. We have actually the ability to be great problem solvers. Sometimes I joke with my son. I said, if women were given charge of this country or to run the world only when they're premenstrual, maybe they'll solve problems faster, because there's a lot of inward movement of that whole dynamic energy which was moving outward during the spring and summer. It's now shifted itself. It's now coming back inwards. And so when we go through that premenstrual phase and we identify that, oh, I can channel this instead of thinking that I still have to behave in the same way that I was doing that time of the month when I had more energy. But I'm now in my 4th week of, the menstrual cycle. So I am in day 21 to 28 or whatever it may be, whether it's day 18 to 25, depending on how long your cycle is. Then we start recognizing those gifts, and that's when those energies start integrating and start healing, because then they have their release. They don't need to behave in a different way. So what I also want to read out and share to you all is that, how do we know what activities do I have to do, or what are those things that I should be identified in terms of how do I balance this? So our menstrual phase was the phase where we can say we're like, as I said, like a wise woman, like an elderly woman, like our grandmothers. And that's the time when we just want to bring ourselves into complete stillness. We want to bring ourselves into a state of almost meditation and even letting go of, it's not just that we're letting go of a physical egg. It's not just we're bleeding. There is so much that's happening in that release. I'm either letting go of my ancestral trauma. I'm either letting go of a belief pattern that no longer serves me. I could be either letting go of a behavior that is no longer functioning for me. I could even be letting go of certain practices which I feel, ye kar liya, ye ho gaya. Abhi now I think I need to reinvent myself. So it's a time for reflection, but not too much intellectual analysis, because we don't have that energy and neither should we be pushing ourselves. But we can say it's a very spiritual time. It's a very spiritual time of saying it's okay for me to rest. It's okay for me to do nothing. And it's okay for me to disappoint people who are expecting me to perform and do this for them. It's perfectly fine. So that I think is very critically lacking today. We are either conditioned or programmed into believing that in the corporate life or even in our homes, or multitasking is an achievement today. So there's no slowing down, there's no connecting with that part of you that maybe is a very soft voice inside asking something of you. And there could be a lot of spiritual enlightenment lying, for us to discover right there. So soul midwife is the term that can you be used to describe our crone phase, our elderly woman phase. She's a holder of wisdom. She's like a grandmother. She knows everything that you need. She takes you into her embrace and she says, just put your head on my lap and rest. And then we moved into the maiden phase, which is where we're saying we're post-menstrual cycle now, where we can take up new projects. We can be like a teacher, we can be a champion, we can start some kind of a new goal that we've set for ourselves. We can make a to-do list, we can do fun things with our children, we can go cook, we can go do some school projects, whatever it is. The mid phase, which is the ovulation phase, which is our peak phase, is where we can be healers and facilitators, other than being mothers to other people as well. And the third phase is our premenstrual phase, which is what we're talking about, which is where a lot of women also don't recognize their own potential, and they think that my role is only defined to doing these 2-3 things. This is my job. And then there is so much of our it's almost like an inner priestess, or we may say it's almost like a recognizing of your spiritual powers. It could be a psychic ability. It could be something in terms of, reading people's minds, but also as women, we intuit very well, especially when we become moms, but also understanding what does the community need at large. So this is a time where if women were to slow down, young girls especially, going to college, going to school, not extending themselves into aerobic activities, playing sport, doing late nights, want to party, all of that is great. Whoever wants to choose that, but also balancing it with that now is the time for me to start slowing down. So a few more things that I want to add, and then maybe open it for reflections and questions for whosoever has journaled. So we spoke about acceptance. We spoke about becoming very aware of when the emotions are coming up and saying it's okay, this is what I feel and what do I need? How can I support myself better to nourish and nurture myself? So where we're really coming to with this whole aspect of balancing these energies is being able to match those activities, do those tasks for those energies, for the corresponding energies. So like we've saying that these are the 4 phases. When we do those energies around those times when we are going through those weeks in that sequence is when those energies then find their balance. Being flexible with irregular cycles, with irregular moods, with irregular diets, whatever it is. And of course, understanding that we are cyclical. So the key for me in my journey was understanding that I don't have to be the same 30 days of the month. That's not how Mother Nature is designed. That's not how we are designed. That's not how we're biologically wired. And the more we stop trying to prove ourselves in a man's world or trying to be that masculine self, the healthier, the lesser these energies will back up on us, and the lesser our spirit will be more elevated, the more joyful and the more satisfied we'll be, the more content we'll be with ourselves and with our lives and with relationships around us. I'm also just looking at other activities that we can do. So just coming back to amongst the 4 archetypes that we've said that when we have expectations from others of performing in a certain way, that can suppress or restrict our access to these aspects of ourselves. We've said that activities that are in tune with these archetype energies and are performed during that phase when the archetype is dominant will heal, energize, express, and balance the archetype within us. And we took some examples of what we could do in different phases. Is we can set goals, have new projects to take on when we're post-menstrual. We can go out with friends, we can exercise, we can do something fun. We can learn something new. During the mother phase, we said we're nurturing. So we want to cook, or we want to garden, or we want to stitch, knit, craft, be productive. During the premenstrual phase, we said we want to start slowing down. So we could clean up a small area of the house if that's where we want to express our creativity, but not taking on too much, not making big decisions is a very, very important part of realizing that this energy has now turned inward and this is how I want to channelize it. And of course, during the menstrual phase, giving ourselves complete rest, no action, no responsibilities, making rest a priority. If I need to sleep extra, then, having the liberty to be able to do that. And I really hope and pray that the more or the sooner that women recognize and realize this, and the more that we are able to do it in our practices, the faster we'll be able to bring a much more healthier imprint to our next generation, to the daughters that we are raising, to the daughter-in-laws that we may have, to all other young women around us who don't even understand how it was in the ancient days. Is women were secluded. When they were bleeding, they would always be put away into a separate room of the house, or they would have a separate area where they could completely rest and be free of extending themselves towards any either kitchen activities or even religious activities. That was their time to rest. They were given a separate diet. They were given certain herbs to take care of themselves. And it was almost like she was rebirthing herself during those 3 to 5 days of the month. So it's almost like she would come out of that 4th or 5th day feeling refreshed because she got the rest when she needed it. So, of course, as doulas and as prenatal educators and birth workers, we can, identify it with postpartum. We've had a delivery, mother needs rest. She's gone through such hard work. Mother and baby don't need to be disturbed. It's almost like it's honoring that sacred time. And for me, it has brought in a lot of recognition about who I am, what I think I'm identified with. Is it even true anymore? Coming really out of a whole, thought process of what it means to be pleasing people. Having been a public figure, it was always expected of you that you have to be nice and you have to really overextend and you really have to go out of your way. And so for me, it was a huge sort of, it still is in work in progress. I can never say we've achieved it. We're always students on the journey. But very significant shifts where I was able to then become much more sensitive to my own emotions and my own needs. And I think that is what has really changed things around. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to, before we go into the second aspect of our second phase of our discussion today. But I'd love to hear from everyone. And Neha was sharing with me something about what stood out for her in the talk that you heard from Sinu Joseph as well. And today in the afternoon with the conversation with Sonia, she was sharing with me how, we go through this whole intolerance, like, and I said, it's perfectly normal to have those boundaries in place and say, premenstrual, this is all that I can take. Like, nobody hound me for more affection or energy. And this is not my mother face. So yeah, I think just being okay with that and knowing that this is normal is a huge rewiring that needs to happen in our psychological makeup. So Neha, you want to facilitate, or Sonia, you want to start taking questions? I mean, either they could put it on the chat, or they could unmute, whoever wants to share. And
Yeah, if anyone would like to speak, a few people, if it's just a few people, we have the time for that. If there are too many, then maybe we can take some questions or come back again. So if anyone
yeah,
would like to to share your experience from what you heard and observed, you're most welcome to.
or even what experience you had during the meditation when we just started the sessions.
Yeah. Lakshmi Murthy
Lakshmi,
would
yeah.
like to speak. Yeah.
Hi, Yukta.
Hi,
Hi.
Lakshmi.
Yeah,
Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. I could quite resonate, and after a long time, I could really resonate
Yeah.
the being of sisterhood with a screen full of women. I can say them full. Yeah, with a screen full of women. Yes, and uh, there is no language or anything needed even to kind of understand that or feel that. Having said that, I was always questioned because women, we are always, whether we are a homemaker or we work or we are professionals, we are always part of an environment surrounded by people, whether it's family, relatives, or co-workers. Uh, while what we spoke about, in the session today is about we becoming more aware. Uh, how do we extend this as a second step? Now, how do we make our environment attuned to the cycles that we are going through? So as we say, the awareness precedes change. Now that we have that awareness, so in an office environment, uh, as you're aware that many offices are becoming very women friendly, including in the diversity and inclusion and all of that. Yeah. So how do we take it to the next level? How do we attune the environment around us? So that, we can be comfortable in whichever environment we are in.
So ideally, I'd like to see a world where there is paid maternal leave and paid menstrual leave also along with it. And that's the only way to honor women, that, you deserve rest. And a man would not come to office if his hand was cut and it was bleeding with so much blood. I mean, they would just definitely say, I need to take a medical holiday. But because our systems have gotten so wired up, we feel that, we need to go to work and we need to. So usme fir I think what the starting step that could happen for all of us is to start expressing what we're going through, is to start sensitizing people around us. So the minute I speak, I articulate it, I've labeled it and I've identified it, at least it brings the conversation into the room instead of us keeping it like a hush hush. Okay, I'm going through those days of the month. No, I'm celebrating, I'm going through my menstrual bleeding. I'm celebrating and joyfully expressing that I have made the choice to come to work for whatever reason. But as a woman's body, this is what I'm dealing with. And thereby also then maybe at some point realizing who is sensitive enough to understand what your needs are. So घर पे भी जैसे I think in the South Indian culture, I hear and I see a lot of it is that men will then take over the kitchen completely, taking care of the kids, cleaning, and ensuring that, his wife is fed, and they've probably learned it from their mothers. They've seen their fathers do it. So it's always been a very cultural thing with our country. I can't speak for the West, but definitely I know that this was not only a traditional cultural practice because of the fact that we've always been very rooted to religion and going to temples and puja bhi hoti hai ghar mein. So then women are not allowed to sort of be in that space. And then there's spiritual and scientific reasons for that. But also what is important to recognize is that now is the time to pass this on to the next generation. Otherwise we're losing it. Otherwise we won't have, like when I'm raising my son, I ensure that he really understands I'm going through this rhythm. So if I've had a mood swing, or if I'm feeling cranky, or if I'm feeling a little irritable, I'm able to voice it and tell him, listen, I don't think I'm feeling good right now. So then he'll be very sweet and he'll say, Mama, can I get you an essential oil? Can I get you something? You know, can I get you something is enough to relax for you to get that space that, okay, I can ask for what I want, instead of me constantly being the nourishing provider. So those small things, I think that's just like the very first step. And as I said, of course, I'd really like to see a world where we have menstrual paid leave.
But there are, it's already started. Many
Somewhere in
companies
the
have adopted it.
European countries, yeah.
Yeah. No, in India, I'm talking about companies in India. They have menstrual policy, they have menstrual leaves. Yeah, so it's already in India in larger company formats. I don't know if there are women in this group who are working with, you know, large organizations. So there are already such policies. Yeah. It's not going to the extent of, you know, labeling that, oh, तुम्हारा तो PMS चल रहा है.
हाँ, वही है.
Somewhere bringing that
Yeah.
the healthy borderline.
Absolutely. There's no judgment around it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Others
Thank
have
you.
raised hands.
Nikita and Aparna, you both raised your hands. Do you want to say something? Awesome. Nikita.
Yeah, hi, sorry.
You've gone on mute again, Nikita ji.
Sorry, thank you so much, Yukta. The meditation was great. I was in and out of it because my son was crying. I had a question around the fact that, you know, women menstruate because their bodies are preparing to welcome a baby, right? And that baby doesn't come. They shed and let whatever the body had prepared to welcome it.
Sorry, somebody has to go on
Yeah.
mute.
I've done that.
Thank you.
Carry on,
Nikita, could you repeat just the last sentence? It kind of
Yeah, so I was saying that the body is preparing in anticipation of a baby coming in, right?
Hanji.
And then that the baby doesn't come, and then the body sheds all the tissues and all of that. So how does that energetically affect the feminine? Because, you know, the feminine was preparing itself to welcome a life, and that life never came. And now it's shedding, and then it has to repeat that process all over again.
Right.
So I'm just trying to think that does that have any effect on our body energetically, on our, you know, like our feelings as women?
So definitely as our feelings as women, unless we've had the child, unless we've become a mother, you know, we've gone through the whole experience of knowing what it is to have 9 months of gestation and then deliver a baby, and all those, that whole circle is complete for us. I think I can speak from my experience is before I became a mom, I had this deep need to take care of somebody, na? तो वो imbalanced भी होता है कभी-कभी. The person in front of me doesn't want to be taken care of. But my motherly instinct wants to nurture them and wants to sort of do those things. So then, you know, being a mother, you find that, okay, here is the right place where I'm able to express that motherly love, which is so natural for a woman. It just comes, it just flows. Nobody has to tell you, baby needs to be nursed now, baby needs to be put to sleep. We just know those things instinctively. So I think emotionally, yes, it does. It can go into a pocket where either it's not being balanced or channelized. On the other hand, a lot of women who've either not able to conceive, not had babies, a lot of women chosen not to have babies. Now, what do they do with all that energy? So there is always we always have the ability to then do that for society at large. So I can always look to collaborate with someone and extend all those energies into either, you know, creating an institution, doing some kind of social service. So that's where I can channel a lot of those energies. Because वो physical cycle तो चलने ही वाली है, but emotionally and spiritually I need to park that sort of intention of me, of fulfillment. I need to be fulfilled as a mother. I need to be fulfilled in doing this. I need to feel someone has received it, and I, want to have that exchange of energy where I feel acknowledged and appreciated towards all those efforts. So even sort of making a project in your life that I want to take care of whatever autistic children, that's my thing, can be. But spiritually, I think that's something that I'm not in a position to answer how it would affect you spiritually, because I'm a mother. But maybe a person who, or a woman who's not, who has tried to conceive, or who's not having babies for whatever reason, or rather even women who've had babies very young, and now those kids have gone ahead and now they're in college, and now they're kind of sitting at home and saying, "Ab main kya karu?" So that's where we find a lot of women getting into I'm starting a cooking business, I'm starting a coaching business, something. So that's where we want to keep putting in our nurturing and loving and creative energies. So I think that would sort of sum it up for me as to what do we do with that mother energy. Because ultimately, it's, as I shared with you in the beginning, it's like a flower, it's like a fruit. It's not for us to hold on to, it's for us to completely just give it in that selflessness to the world. It's offered. Somebody else is going to take the fragrance of the flower and love the beauty of the flower and put it in a vase or something. So it's really that aspect of ourselves which I also experience as a mother, is that you become so selfless and giving. You've forgotten if you showered, you've forgotten if you looked at your phone. You're just so into the baby and raising up a child that we forget what were my needs and what did I need today. Did I even eat what I was craving to eat today? So yeah, I think we find our ways around those things. And of course, we can take the discussion a little lamba baad mein.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita ji. Aparna and then Shabri.
Hi, thank you, Yukta. Big fan of all that you spoke. So I tried to journal something, and it may not come across as a question, but more like a reflection
Yeah.
of what I observed. So, and I also feel guilty while saying this, but I consider this as a safe space, and I think I can confide into all of you. As a young woman, when I was working in a corporate before I got into birth work, there was a colleague of mine who would often take leave during a particular week. And I would go ahead and sort of like tell, like I would inquire from my leader that as to why is she on leave. She would say, oh, she's having her periods. And then in my mind I'd be like, so what, even I get periods every month, like I also menstruate every month. What is the big deal? And then I would come back home and I would tell my mother that see, women, they make these reasons, 2 3 days they want to take a leave, and I'm so strong, I'm also a woman, I also menstruate, I also have cramps. But suddenly and I thought I will share this just as a guilt, I would share this just as an observation, but having heard your talk, now I am feeling guilty of all those thoughts that I had once as a young woman. Also, I was not a mother back then. The other thing that happened incidentally this week was that I have a helper Didi who comes home for an hour, who does something. She This particular day she comes very late, and I'm like, Didi, aap itni late aaye? And she's like, aap kuch khane ke liye de do pehle. I said, what happened? You're okay? She said, bleeding ho raha hai na, mahine se hu. And suddenly it took me a this thing. I jerked for once that what about them? Like they're for us, we can still take breaks, and we have the liberty of say resting it out or something, but for women like them, they absolutely have no choice. And probably a lot of women in the workforce, they would have no choice but to perform each day with the same vigor. So, and it's kind of unfortunate also. I don't know, like, how they feel about it. But just having that information, that just having that insight from within now makes me feel very guilty about this.
No, so that's the thing. In fact, one of the, as you rightly said, before we become a mother, we don't have that level of emotional awareness. We just don't have it. And that's very typical of being. I mean, I'm not saying this is for all women or it's a blanket judgment, but generally speaking, utna nahi feel hota. I used to overextend and overwork myself when I was in my phase of, traveling and ठीक है, you're a celebrity, you're expected to perform till 10 in the night, 2 in the morning, you have to be nice to people. You're constantly doing, you're driving that machine, you're driving that engine. And so it's a very thinking and logical mind. Then we soften up. Then as we go through all the physiological changes, being a mother, and there's so much that happens. It's almost like a spiritual initiation. We just become a whole new person altogether. And that's where we become more caring in our thinking, much more empathetic towards other people's pain. And I'm not saying that there aren't young girls who are not doing for social causes and they don't have empathy for animals or whatever they're doing. वो सब है, अपनी जगह है. But this is a whole nother level altogether. This is almost like, as I said, it's a spiritual initiation. So there's a feeling mind, there's a whole ability to even be able to communicate that. And when we say circle of sisterhood, and when we say I am accepting myself just the way I am and I'm going through this process, then I'm able to extend that same empathy to another woman. And that is where the change will come. That's where that's when I have my acceptance, then I'm able to empower myself with that complete awareness. Empowerment is not something of, like I find it very shallow when somebody says you're empowering women. But हम कौन है किसी को empower करने वाले? Woman is already empowered. We are already Durga, we are already Lakshmi, we are already Kali, we are already all of that. We have to recognize that. And when we embrace that, then we stand in our empowerment, and that's where we say to the other. So I was telling my house help also today, I said, when you are going through your resting days, I would really appreciate you tell me, you take the day off. It's a paid leave on me. If you feel guilty, I don't want to lose work, and you come and compensate on some other day. We'll do some other fun thing. When I really need you, I'll ask you to overextend. She said, yeah, in our village also, it was like that. When I grew up, 5 days we were secluded. And food was provided and we had to be on our own and nobody was coming out to see you and you were not coming out into the main household. It was almost like you're put in a cottage or a villa. So I said, ye acha hai. Ancestral roots ke sab practices pe jana hi chahiye. She said, haan Didi, we used to, I remember, she says, we were restricted. If there was a Ganesh festival going on in the house for 10 days and I can't come out of the house for those 3 days to be part of the celebration because so that was the primary reason why I had shared on our doula group about the, the YouTube links of Sinu Joseph, because she's the one who fought for the Sabrimala case, whereas why women should not go to the temple. There's a whole scientific, spiritual logic, reasoning behind it, and it's honoring our body. It's actually good for our health if we were to restrain ourselves from those things and overextending our. So I shared it with another friend of mine. I know her daughters are very heavily into swimming and whatnot. And I said, can they slow down for those 2-3 days of the month at least? Can your young girls, because then they'll develop issues when they're trying to conceive, then they'll develop issues when they're menopausal. So wo sab aayega baad mein. Because their energy cycle is going to build up and then get triggered and wo sab hone wala hai. So how much they do, I don't know, but we share. Now we feel our friends have daughters and let them benefit and hopefully that they make a change, and that's where we want to see the shifts happening in society. So yeah, there's a lot to be done and said on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shabri, thank you for waiting.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
So I'm so glad that I could join on time and I could do the meditation because I just felt it was very easy to connect with the womb. I have been doing some of the practices about womb connection. I have not gone into womb healing, which I would like to know more from you, that whether you do it or not. But I would like to share an experience where you mentioned about that like many like during these phases, whatever phases we have, premenstrual phase, we receive some gifts. So I had arranged a womb connection circle on Women's Day, and many women had attended that. And in fact, there were mother-in-law of some women as well.
Nice, nice.
Was around us, like they must be 55, 60, 65. And it was such a amazing circle, and so many people shared what gifts they received after that. there was one person who told me that she was having irregular cycles from the last 3 months, and she was very worried about it. And she's very young, like she must be like 21 or so. And she was very worried about it, like why the cycle is getting so delayed. And after that whoop circle, next day she got her periods. And it was such like I just felt like how come, like we have these energies like you mentioned.
No, we
you know?
transmit to each other.
Yeah.
And that's what they say, that women, when they used to live together in the olden days, or even up until 20, 30 years back, that they would kind of end up menstruating ahead of each other or even together. And that's how they track their cycles. So typically they used to see that, when we go from winter solstice to now summer solstice, which is coming up in 2 days, they would see. So in India, we call it Uttarayan and Dakshinayan, na? Ki sun is moving a little towards the north and sun is more towards the south. So then they used to say that, am I bleeding closer to Amavasya or Amavasya? And then they would know full moon, I'm ovulating. And then that's how they would plan to conceive babies. Or then second half of the year, from summer solstice to winter solstice, they would know, okay, I'm bleeding more closer to full moon. And so that also becomes a part of your tracking. So what I'd like for you all to do after today's session, and maybe we can, catch up a month or 2 months later and see how it's gone for us, is when you create a moon dial. So let's make a circle. For example, if I have a round, like a clock kind of a paper, and I've divided it into 28 equal parts, whatever, 28, 30 daldo. And I say, starting day 1, bleeding. How am I feeling? What's my physical energy? What are my needs? What's my creativity level? What are my sexual needs? What are my spiritual insights? So on and so forth. So color karo, art karo, jo bhi hai, womb art bhi hota hai aajkal. And that's like a whole therapeutic aspect of expressing ourselves, journaling, and also nurturing that inner child. Otherwise, we have no aunts and we have no grandmothers to guide us, and that whole circle of women around us. So what happens is, when we've charted that whole month and we've come into a level of awareness, and then next month again I sort of make a moon dial and I see which is the day I've started bleeding. Is it a 27-day cycle, 28-day cycle? And I get more deeper into it. We'll also see that if I have started bleeding between the new moon, the dark moon, Amavasya, and the Purnima, let's say I'm in between that phase, then what are my energies in the coming month? So it's almost saying, if Amavasya is like winter, is like my bleeding, dark, no moon phase, ekdam stillness hai na, pura bahar dark hai. So Amavasya can be your sort of your point of reference. So let's say I started bleeding 7th, 8th day from Amavasya. Then I know I'm kind of in the cosmic energy ka maiden phase. So how is that playing out? What are those? How does that affect my thought process? How does that make me interact with my daily activities? Or how does that show up in my work, on my work front? Same thing if I'm bleeding more between the full moon and the new moon. Then how are my enchantress energies? Then how, because full moon is your summer, and then now we're going towards winter. So full moon is technically cosmos ka, we're moving in that autumn season. So I'm in that enchantress phase. I'm in that priestess phase where I'm creative and I can come up with solutions and I can really solve the problems of the world. So then that was a typical PMS week which we were talking about. So ab mera kaise ho raha hai? Am I getting some insights into some gifts and talents that have been hidden? And so when we start very deeply going into all these things, and also coming back to just wanting to, I know we're kind of over time, but I'll wind up with saying what I've been doing with the Ayurvedic practices. That's what I wanted to shift into next. Is traditionally, when women were told to rest for 3 to 5 days, they were restricted also from having a bath. Right? So now when people want to go and work, they'll say, aise kaise karenge? And I'll feel so not clean and whatever. And for me, it was such an important learning part of my whole process. अच्छा 3 दिन नहाना नहीं है, लेकिन लॉजिकल माइंड बोलता है पर क्यों, उससे क्या हो जाएगा? So there's a whole downward flow of the Apan Vayu. there's a whole process your body is releasing. You know, we feel bloated also before we are about to menstruate. We feel so cramped. तो वो जब रिलीज हो रहा है, आपको वो प्रोसेस को एक तो पहले डिस्टर्ब ही नहीं करना है. टेम्परेचर वाइज, इफ आई एम पुटिंग वार्म और कोल्ड वाटर ऑन माई बॉडी, आई एम फर्स्ट disturbing the hormonal process of my body, just on the surface of it. Secondly, when I am extending myself into a bath, I am actually putting myself into a position which my body is, again, we are not matching with those energies. अभी मेरा resting का time है. तो उससे अंदर क्या क्या कुछ चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, डिस्टर्बेंसेस आ रहे हैं, वो बहुत बाद में पता चलता है. आई मीन, यू कैन ऑलवेज वाइप योरसेल्फ एंड देयर आर अदर वेज अराउंड इट, बट आई एम जस्ट शेयरिंग दैट फॉर मी इट्स बिकम सच अ इंटीग्रल पार्ट of my monthly practices. 3 days no bath. Fourth day also, if it's very cold in winter, I'll say no bath. Fourth day also. Fifth days, head bath, pura nahalo, fresh. You've emerged out of your cocoon and you're sort of rebirthed into a whole new person because you've got that time to be with yourself. You've sheltered yourself from all your daily activities, which कभी कभी तो ज्यादा कभी ऐसे हो भी जाती किसी एक दिन ब्लीडिंग, तो एनर्जी भी नहीं होती उतनी उठने की. यू barely have the energy to just go and change. So now when I look back at my youth and I say, how did I travel and how did I do all those things? And I look at young girls who are just on the move, eating anything, late nights कर रहे हैं. मतलब ये सब कुछ बहुत गलत practices है ना. So sometimes I share with them that there is a certain diet we do in Ayurveda. It's recommended that you should not have salt for those 3 days because salt is going to have water retention. We've just started releasing a water sort of element of the body. जल वायु का हम अपान वायु से हम जल जो है वो हमारे बॉडी से निकल रहा है, वाटर एलिमेंट. तो I don't want to unnecessarily now create more bloating and give more work to my body. So I really look forward now to those 3 days. And I'm going to have a different diet. I'm not going to have a bath. And I'm not going to do those things which I was doing for the rest of those 25 days of the month. So for me also, it serves as a reminder of what am I letting go of? Spiritually, I say, what is it that I'm letting go of? And if I have not recognized it, then, sort of allowing myself to say, ठीक है, अभी नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. Maybe it's a very unconscious belief, or maybe it's some kind of a behavior pattern, or whatever it is I'm letting go of. I hope that I realize it once the bleeding is done with. So वो भी होता है कई बार. And I hope that, everyone really looks into what Ayurveda has traditionally advised women to eat, how to sleep, not to have a bath, and just really allow yourself that rest for those 3 days. Very important. It also allowed me to move from sanitary napkins to cloth napkins. So that was my other sort of learning, that how do I now manage? Now I have to really be aware that every 2 hours I have to change the napkin. I have to wash my napkins once I'm done bleeding. So many things go on around it. So it's almost like a ritual. हो गया आपके अपना टाइम आपके लिए हो गया है.
There are
So
one
yeah.
or two more questions. Maybe we can come to them. But before
Yeah,
that, I
please.
just want to say, in case if anyone is leaving, I think we should come back after about 2 months to again, look at stuff that we observed. And I'm thinking if maybe Yukta, either if you have or one of us can find like a PDF of a template that we can print and we can actually write.
I'll share
So,
some. I'll
yeah,
share
please.
some on the group and I'll send it out. Yeah,
We all
definitely.
can use that same template to kind of write down how we felt in each of the
Bilkul.
phases. And we can do that for the next 2 months and then come back and have like a sharing circle where we can share our experiences. And I'm also wondering if you can share with us some kind of the Ayurvedic guidelines on do's and don'ts on the menstrual period, like as like whether it's diet or whether it's whatever, just as information for us, if there's a resource on that, either.
Yeah, so I don't have much in terms of other than what I've been doing, but I'm sure that there are, as I was saying it on the group as well, that our sisters from the south would know more because then they can check in with their grandmothers and find out
Yeah, so
what
I
was
think
going
anyone in this group, if you have
Yeah.
some traditional practices from your home and stuff, share that, and then we can put that together maybe. And you are welcome to pick and choose whatever in that works for you, because I know in different parts of the country, different things are relevant. Diets are different in different parts of the country. So you pick what works for you, but it'll be nice to share with each other what are these traditional practices in terms of diet, in terms of, things that you would do, not do during different phases. I think these are the
For
key
me, what
things that I
worked
try
was
to take forward.
Sorry, Sneha, say that again,
I'm just
darling.
saying these are the two things. One is this mapping and some
Yeah.
kind of putting together all our knowledge, traditional knowledge from different parts of the country on,
Definitely.
beneficial things and things that might not be beneficial.
It's a whole project. I feel it really needs to go into documentation, and a lot of people in Gujarat are doing this work.
Okay.
Have started working with not only with the just a daiyan hoti thi, with the birth workers, with midwives, and asking them, how did you all do it? How did you learn from your grandma? What are the foods that were given? What are
Yeah.
the foods that were avoided? What herbs were used, even to apply? I mean,
Yeah.
they were working from the birth workers' perspective. But I'm saying, as far as menstrual cycle is concerned, generally it was always kept very light food, non-spicy food at all.
Mm.
No tea, coffees, none of those things. And what I have personally been doing for the last 7, 8 years since I've been practicing Ayurveda much more, with much more of a focus, is either I start the day with a papaya bowl, and that's breakfast. So
Are you
that's it
talking about during your period or in general?
during the period. So those 3 days, at least 2 to 3 days, ye diet follow karna. You start the day with a papaya bowl, and dopair ko you have something called til chawal. So there's a proportion. I can share the recipe for those who are interested. And you stay light. So during the day, if you feel dehydrated, if you want to drink something, you can have rice water, which is typically called peds in Marathi and kanji in South India. And same thing for dinner. So the still rice is made without salt. It's only made with little pepper and thoda sa aisa ginger and thoda sa aisa usme ajwain dal ke, ghee dal ke. So everything is cooked in brass utensils in Ayurveda. Nothing is cooked in pressure cookers, and nothing is made with non-stick pans, and there is no sort of refined oils that are used. Then there are those refinements as well, which of course everything was changed in our house, but senha namak hota hai.
See, I
So
think
those were
everyone can move a few steps from wherever you are. That's what is important. Because sometimes it may seem like too hard to achieve that kind of a lifestyle to support your hormones. But I think from wherever you are, in whatever way that's appropriate for you, if you make a few changes, and you might notice a difference. So maybe we can try to do that. Make a few changes and then observe month 1, month 2 to month 5, whether we notice something.
I also want to add to this, Neha, because we're on this conversation of diet and slowing down. I'm so certain of it that women who have a PCOD or PCOS issue will get beneficial results once they do only these two things. One is becoming aware and slowing down. So not having to constantly be under a masculine pressure of performing and doing, chahe studies hi kyun na ho, even if it's college going girls and women. And also the diet. So really staying away from all processed foods, really not indulging late night into a snack, really having a discipline about it. It's really about honoring the temple of your body and saying, this is my sacred temple. This is my divine sort of birthing device. And I want to keep it as healthy. And I find personally, the more I've been able to give myself complete rest for those 3 days, the more I'm confident that my menopause will not be so difficult for me, because I've already accepted all those aspects of myself.
Yeah.
So I'll be okay with my wrinkles and with the white hair and with whatever life comes with. And that is the part of wisening up. And that is who we call as, the elder women of society whom we look up to. So I really hope that these things can be
It is
brought.
about valuing it's about valuing each phase of the menstrual cycle and of your life. So it's
Of
lovely.
your life.
You said everything is cyclic. There's a small cycle and there's a larger cycle and then there's a larger cycle.
Absolutely. And that's how it's all interlinked. And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. Understanding that this small cycle is a microcosm, is a reflection of the largest cycle.
Yeah.
So the more I honor this, the more I will have a healthier
Correct.
interpersonal relationship, and the more balanced I'll have my emotions. That's what women are complaining about. Na? Hot flashes ho raha hai, emotional imbalances ho raha hai, PMS mein cramps ho rahe hain.
Yeah.
Is hoga. When we're honoring our body is going to speak to us, and our womb has so much wisdom. Our womb has so much wisdom.
Thank you so much, Yukta. I know that this is a topic which we actually can chat about endlessly, and we will not end it with this. I think we'll have a few more of these so that everyone has an opportunity to share what they observed and if they have any knowledge to share. So I know there were a few hands raised where there wasn't probably time to come to that, because I don't know who all, some people may need to leave. So we'll kind of officially close. But
That's okay.
if you
But
have
we'll
some
officially
time,
open
Yukta,
the
then
circle open for discussion, for sharing,
so
and
it's up to you. If you have some time to take a few questions, you can do that.
I'm
Because I
happy
just
to
want
take more
to.
questions. And I'm also, yeah, Harleen. Good to see you. Thank you
So
for
if you
being.
have some time,
Well,
then those few
good
people who had
evening.
questions, you can, yeah, go for it.
Yes, go
Harleen,
ahead,
go for it.
please.
Do I go ahead?
Yes,
Yes,
Such a lovely session, Yukta. Really eye opener from from literally having that mindset of business as usual ki chalte rehta hai, this is part of women's life, to really honoring uh, what feminine energy is. So from this, if I had to sum up, so हमारी menstrual health and how we honor it is somewhere very deeply linked to how feminine energy we feel. It's reflective of that. If we are having a good menstrual cycle, from the discussion that we have, the takeaway is it's about how good we are in our feminine. So how much is it flowing in us. And as a therapist, I would just like to add to the discussion, जैसे आपने last में बोला कि अगर हम ये सिर्फ दो चीजें कर लें, एक diet और एक honoring the emotion, not getting flown with the masculine side. I think that's a very, very big chunk of it. As a therapist, मैंने बहुत सारी women के साथ काम किया है, and I feel that this very emotion and traumas of life, where you feel that that aspect of feminine was not a boon but a bane. वो
yeah,
जो एक aspect है ना, it really blocks the channel of feminine.
so well said, so
So
well
be
said.
it a
Uncles are saying,
divorce, yeah, be it a divorce,
they don't like bleeding, they feel unclean, they feel dirty. Kya hai?
yeah,
I mean, they're cursing the whole process, but we
cursing.
have to embrace it, love it.
Yes.
We give birth, we can raise generations. Where would the world be without women?
Yes, but then the current generation is they are fearful of birthing, right? The ones they this get pregnant, they all sort of fears kick in कि मेरी life का क्या होगा मैं. So that's where the feminine energy, you can get a gaze into it. So not only this, in fact a tragic divorce,
Yeah.
traumatic miscarriages, series of miscarriages. These are the traumas which actually I feel really block that feminine energy. And even aspects of molestation and childhood sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
ये जहाँ so when I'm working with women, I ask just one question to know कि कहाँ पे वो blockage है. और वो ये है कि what time or when in your life did you feel that it was not worthy of being a woman?
Beautifully said. In fact, when today during I was having a small chat with Sonia in the afternoon, and she said, मुझे ना ovulation के बाद ना कुछ थोड़ा tolerance नहीं होता है, सब लोग मेरे से दूर हो जाओ. And I said, that is exactly what the premenstrual time is. It's a great time for us to know where our boundaries are. ये मेरी बाउंड्री है बॉस, इसके आगे तो मेरे से मांगो ही मत कुछ और मेरे पास भी मत आओ. It's as you said, for childhood trauma हो, चाहे sexual abuse, चाहे some other life situation होगी, किसी के घर में कोई death हो गई, कोई recruiting हो गया घर से, anything it could be.
Yeah. So
And
that's a big blockage.
hear somebody else's story also. If I know my cousin sister has gone through something very bad in her marriage, that is also a trauma imprint in
That's
my
true.
mind.
That's absolutely true. And
Yes.
that's a big reason. अभी एक ही I'm working with this client, and this is a big one. आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा है. She has this major association कि अगर मैं as a woman कमाऊंगी नहीं, तो मेरी कोई worth नहीं है. If I'm not earning, मेरी कोई worth नहीं है. अगर मेरी कोई worth नहीं है, तो मुझे I will not get loved by a husband. I said, where did you pick this up? And when we actually kind of research and dug in deep, तो she said इंसिडेंट उसकी सिस्टर के साथ सेम हुआ. शी वाज not earning, she gave birth, the husband wasn't supportive, so she picked it up from there. So till the time we do not really, whatever may be the source, but ये जो blockages हैं, and these are deep, and the moment we healed her that whole divorce and a story, which was a very, very painful experience for anybody. The very next day she got her period. So you see how
Release, we're holding on to that belief system.
that
And it's coming up. Actually, the womb is trying to show us, our subconscious mind is trying to show us, unhealthy, आप इसको release करो. The other I don't know, Neha, can you pull up that image which I shared with you now? If we probably should have put it up sooner. So that's an image which also stood out a lot for me earlier, that we are our grandmother's experience. So when we're expressing trauma, something happening in my life, it's not necessarily mine, because वो mitochondrial DNA से वो मेरे अंदर आया है when I was a egg, when my mother was a fetus in my grandmother's womb. So that's why we say trauma is generational, and we have the ability to break it.
Absolutely. And it plays out seamlessly. मतलब I have so many women, जैसे ही pregnancy होती है ना, that वो record कैसे जो mother के time पे था वो कैसे play out होता है.
Same
My
pattern.
mom was in a very difficult situation when she was carrying me. I don't want कि मेरे बच्चे के साथ same seamlessly. So this is not just a picture, but this is so true, and I can confirm this.
Yeah. So it's very true. So that's what I realized when I used to question, ये किसका thought है, ये तो true ही नहीं है, तो फिर मैं इसको लेके क्यों चल रही हूँ, you know. So that a lot of that happened with me when I started these practices, and I said, oh, this has come from my mom, and then it's come from my nanny. So it's not mine, and I really don't need to hold on to it anymore. That's it, I'm done with it. So उसको space तो दे दिया, अब नया क्या thought process डालना है या belief डालना है वो बात की बात है, but the fact is that we've at least become aware of it instead of it driving us.
True. And awareness is the first step and the most
Yeah.
important one.
Thank you
think
for
for
sharing.
us as birth workers, we definitely see this so much when we work closely with mothers during labor and during pregnancy and labor. There are complications and blockages in a physiological process, invariably because of something that was stated about her womanhood. What did I feel about my menstrual cycle? What did my mother feel when she came to know she was carrying me? What was my mother's birth experience like? What was my, relationship with my parents? So what you're saying is something that definitely is very true. And as
I'll give you a very, very an example. एक IVF pregnant mother थी. I was working with her. So we worked with all the beautiful practices, healing the womb. She made her feel confident, everything. She was all set, But just before giving birth, she called me and she said, I cannot give birth. मैंने कहा, क्यों क्या हुआ? And she says, I've had a miscarriage before. And अभी मेरे को false labor pain भी शुरू हो रही है ना. My mind is telling me I can't do this. It's a recall of the same experience, and this is something that tells me कि मेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा. And वैसे भी IVF pregnancy, as we all know, nobody even tries for a natural delivery. Pain induction, C-section, all of this is the norm in India at least. So I said, नहीं, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? We healed her this trauma of her past miscarriage, and you won't believe. उसकी डॉक्टर ने बोला कि अब हम आपको इंड्यूस कर देते हैं. The same woman who refused कि मैं birth नहीं कर सकती, she said, no, ma'am, I will wait. Said, but this is not natural pregnancy, you see. She said, no, I'll wait. She waited. Naturally, labor शुरू हुआ. She gave birth blissfully without epidurals and nothing, no intervention. Her doctor in Sri Gangaram here in Delhi was amazed. Uski family amazed, wo khud amazed. You see how the fears and trauma really play out. Wo aap hata dijiye. You see, this is what the mom power is. So you
And
take
how the unborn baby is also, asking the mother
Absolutely.
to evolve. It's almost like baby saying, "Chalo, mama, you can do it. We can do this."
Absolutely. So this is, I'm giving you this example so that we understand that how it plays out in real life.
Yes. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Yukta, for this lovely eye-opener session. And we look forward for some more interactions.
Yes.
And
Madhumati ji, you've been waiting. Thank you for your patience. Please.
Hi, Yukta ma'am. Thank you so much for the wonderful session.
Thank
And
you.
the meditation was very connectful, and I can able to connect with the womb. And the moment you said the light, think of the lightning white light that is sparkling in the lower belly. It's so wonderful to feel it. And I have a question.
Drop on a call.
Yeah, just when she finally got to ask her question.
Waiting so patiently for so long.
I know.
So is she in our doula group?
Yeah, she is.
ठीक
She's
है.
in
So I can-
Coimbatore. Not Coimbatore, near Coimbatore actually.
अच्छा. Let's see if she joins back. ठीक है.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll personally reach out to her and have a interaction. जो भी उनका question था.
So let me know if you find that some kind of a chart or a page on which
Yeah,
in all
I'll
journal in a similar format, then I'll share that with everyone.
मैं group पे ही डाल देती हूँ.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to print it out can print it out
Right.
as well.
Yes, that will be
And
nice.
even the meditation, the longer meditation, the guided one, so they can always play it and listen to it and, you know, feel connected and helps to calm down, just get back on ground. Here is my body, here I am, this is my womb, everything is okay, the world is not coming to an end. Yeah. Great. I really want to thank everyone who's joined, some people had to drop off as well. And thank you, Neha, for pushing this forward.
Thank you so
मतलब
much.
4 महीने लग गए इसको होते होते.
We'll see you again soon.
Yes, look forward to it, and I'm humbled to be able to make this sharing, and so glad everyone
Bye
could
bye. Good
contribute.
night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yukta. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yukta.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Jayanti. Thank you, Khatija.
Yeah, thank you.
Harshini, Harika, I've been listening silently. Okay.
That was a very nice session. I'm traveling actually, so I
That's okay. That's okay.
It's a
Please
great
share your
session.
insights later on the group. We'd love to hear, and hopefully we'll make a study group or like a sharing group
We
only.
can do
Alag.
that. We can make one separate group
Yeah.
on this topic, which is more personal for us rather than about the doula course. We can do that.
Yeah.
Whoever keen can join, and that's where we can
Join.
take this discussion forward.
Keep it active, absolutely. And I'm sure it'll help as birth workers, it's helping the mother also.
Yeah.
Whoever is in our care.
Chalo. Okay,
ठीक.
bye-bye. Good night.
See you soon.